In 1970, Laurent Dumont, age 10 at the time, was fishing with his family out on Lake Manitoba in the Winnipeg province of Canada. As the day winded down and the family started heading back to shore, the family saw something in the water ahead. It wasn't a floating log, and it appeared as shiny black humps poking out just above the water. Dumont would say the skin texture resembled an orca. As they got closer, Dumont and his family, well aware of the legendary creature that inhabited the lake, became excited as they might finally be able to see the creature up close. Then, around 20 to 30 feet away, the creature dipped under the water and disappeared. Dumont and his family had came close to seeing the mysterious water creature said to inhabit Lake Manitoba, a creature that has become to be known as Manipogo. Manipogo is typically described as having a muddy brown body with humps that show above the water. Witnesses say the creature is around 12 to 50 feet in length, and some report it has a sheep-like or reptile-like head. It has been described as eel-like or snake-like in appearance. While many quickly dismiss Manipogo as folklore and a creature that never existed, there's quite a bit of evidence that something could have been in this lake, or perhaps still is. On Friday, August 18, 1961, a newspaper article written in the Calgary Herald details how many in the surrounding communities believe something was in the lake. Dr. James MacLeod, a university professor and head of zoology at the University of Manitoba, was convinced something was in the lake. In the article, it details how Dr. MacLeod spoke with many residents that witnessed the creature. The article states that every year since 1955, parties of swimmers, fishermen, and sightseers reported sighting the monster around late July or early August. Also, it mentions a strange, unknown bone discovered as well by resident Oscar Fredrickson. Later, the bone was said to be likely from an ancient sea monster that swam inland after the last ice age. Dr. MacLeod was convinced that the monster existed. He planned to use skin divers and large nets to search for it, but unfortunately wasn't able to find any hard evidence. It should be said the lake is fairly shallow at only around 23 feet, but with such a large lake and working in dark conditions, it's very reasonable to assume that skin divers could have easily missed hard evidence and also simply not even searched a good portion of the area. A year prior to Dr. MacLeod's search, perhaps the most famous sighting of the beast would occur in 1960. On August 10th, 1960, 17 people said they saw 3 creatures swimming in the water. It's reported many of the witnesses didn't know one another, but all never wavered in their story. One of the witnesses that day, Tom Locke, a land inspector, would dub the name of the creature as Manipogo. Another popular sighting that occurred in the early 1960s occurred in 1962. 2 fishermen, Richard Vincent and John Conefall, alleged to have seen a large monster similar to a serpent or giant snake. The men were on their boat on Lake Manitoba near the mouth of the Waterhen River. Vincent took a photo of the sighting, and to date this appears to be the only alleged photo of Manipogo. Although sightings date back to the 1800s, the first documented sighting was reported in 1909 by Hudson Bay's Company's fur trader Valentine Mackay, who says he saw a massive snake-like creature. Still, other documented sightings occurred as well in modern day. In 1989, Sean Smith and his family were visiting from Minneapolis, Minnesota. They were on a camping trip and stayed at Shallow Point off Highway number 6 on Lake Manitoba. While on the lake, Smith says they saw a creature about 80 feet in length with many humps coming from the water. In 1997, campers from Quebec who were on Lundar Beach campground alleged to see a large reptile head rise above the water and then disappear below the surface. The creature was several hundred feet offshore, but still panic ensued and swimmers evacuated the water. The official statement was that the object was a log, but a search of the area didn't find this. In 2004, commercial fisherman Keith Hayden reported some of his fishing nets on Lake Manitoba were torn up by something even more strange. The fish in the nets weren't nibbled on, but were actually bitten in half. This, of course, raised the question as to what could actually do this. Lake Manitoba is located around 47 miles to the northwest of Winnipeg and is the 14th largest lake in Canada at 1,785 square miles, often overshadowed by the nearby massive Lake Winnipeg. Lake Manitoba is a popular spot for fishing, campers, and outdoorsmen. While many have come to the lake, some have reported seeing the creature in the water over the years. In fact, native tribes have told stories of the beast for centuries, and finally in 1960 the creature was named Manipogo in a tribute to the more famous Canadian cryptid water monster, Ogopogo. There are those that believe the monster is nothing more than wishful thinking. In 1959, local radio DJ Don Curtin got word about a sighting of Manipogo. He went and interviewed the witness and played it the next day. The interview was wildly popular, and soon many people were out in their boats looking for Manipogo. It's said in the area every summer Manipogo fever exists as sightings and the popularity of the creature explodes. There are several theories concerning Manipogo. The first is that Manipogo is simply a moose and its calf or calves. It's well documented that when moose and their calves travel through water, it can appear as humps in the water. Also, an individual moose could appear as humps if the head is above water as well as its humps. While this can explain some of the sightings, it surely cannot explain all of them though. For example, any sighting where the creature disappeared under the water for an extended period couldn't be a moose, as they obviously need oxygen. The second theory is that it could be a sturgeon. Sturgeons breach the water and do a tail walk in a pose that makes it look like the neck and head of a sea serpent. Sturgeon never stop growing and are the largest freshwater fish in Lake Manitoba. The average size is about 5 feet, though they can grow up to 7 or 8 feet at least. Another explanation is that it is simply an eel or snake, and that witnesses have misjudged the size. Other theories include that it is some type of prehistoric creature that survived the last ice age, or perhaps a new, reclusive species. Canada is renowned for its number of water cryptids, and Manipogo draws many comparisons to a water cryptid from British Columbia known as Ogopogo, said to inhabit Okanagan Lake. While no concrete evidence has ever been found, there has been numerous eyewitness sightings that have continued to present day. The community embraces the cryptid, and many, despite any evidence, believe something exists in the lake.